Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Tech and Tactile podcast. Holy crap, it has been a minute, but we're back. As always, my name's Cody, and I'm joined by my little brother, Michael.
Hello, hello, and today we have a very special little episode for you. We were reached out to by one of our wonderful followers, with a very specific question that we thought deserved its own little spotlight of an episode because it's quite the question to unpack. And that question being, what video game company has the most accessibility?
I can go ahead and say, it's definitely not Nintendo.
Yeah, no.
However, I'm going to put some caveats there. I mean, Nintendo kind of has, it's interesting. Their games don't have accessibility options per se, but a lot of their games are made to kind of to where, like, you know, all walks of life can play their games. However, it's very interesting, because, like, so I'm playing through Breath of the Wild with somebody who has never really touched a video game before. It's their first time really gaming and playing Zelda and everything. And to them, like, you know, there's like, you know, options out there that can help newcomers and stuff, but not really in that game. It's kind of a sink or swim kind of game, kind of throwing you out to the wolves. It's actually kind of a harder game whenever you first start out, but other than that, like, you know, you got like your Marios and stuff that's got the assist mode for people who may have trouble playing stuff, but nothing in terms of real raw accessibility content. So yeah, I gotta say Nintendo might be kind of the weakest link in this regard. The real questions, I guess it boils down to, is Microsoft or Sony.
Yeah,
More than Nintendo.
for
Not
sure.
that Nintendo, yeah, because like Nintendo does have accessibility in their system. They got their own screen reader. Like, you know, I think we've covered it before whenever we talked about the Switch. It's got a zoom feature for magnification. It has a bold text and everything. So it does have some accessibility options on the OS level. But
When we
in
first
terms of
saw that accessibility menu in itself, we were very surprised because when we actually went into the system settings looking for accessibility and didn't find
yeah,
it, we were very surprised to see that they had separated that out. And not to mention, like, when we saw that screen reader on the Switch 2 for the first time, that floored us.
and you know, as I said before, in one of the previous episodes, it works on the OS, but it doesn't work for the eShop.
Yeah, no,
And
no, it doesn't.
that baffles the hell out of me. I don't understand how that's a thing. But anyway, it's an OS level thing, but it's not on. I've never seen a Nintendo game that specifically has accessibility options. I
Right.
don't think I've ever seen that. Period.
Right. The
And
closest thing that Nintendo has gotten to an accessibility feature, especially with a lot of its new hardware changes when it comes to either games or the Nintendo Switch Online service itself with the NSO games, would just be the ability to be able to remap controls to the new hardware for like a bunch of different games or older games on the service itself. But outside of that, other than, like, you know, some tiny little tweaking and remapping for controls, there's really nothing to speak of.
yeah, so so Nintendo is kind of the weakest link here. It, like I've said, like I said earlier, it really boils down to Xbox and PlayStation. I can't really put Valve or anything in there. Like, I hear that they've put a screen reader into Steam OS's big picture mode, but I have not tested it. And Valve doesn't really make lots of video games compared to Xbox or PlayStation.
Right.
I mean, they used to. Where's Half-Life 3? Where Portal 3? Like, where are those games?
Indeed.
Anyway, that's a tangent for another day. But I mean, yeah, so I guess it boils down to, yeah, those two. So I'll cover what we can maybe think about whenever it comes to them, because it's an honestly really good question. Like,
a lot to unpack. So first off, like, you know, big boy in the room, you got, you know, Mr. Microsoft with Xbox and its proprietary. They have done something kind of that was the first big step, if you will, in this kind of realm, especially within this community and this question, with the XAC as its tagline for its code name, or the Xbox Adaptive Controller. This thing was very revolutionary for when it released back in 2018, I believe.
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a hot minute. I wonder if they've ever adapted it for if they made like a series variant of it or anything. I don't know. I don't really know. I don't know too much about the adaptive controller. It's something I've always wanted to play with, but it can get kind of costly, unfortunately. Video gaming, whether you're disabled or not, is kind of getting a little too expensive. It's more than just an enthusiast hobby at this point. It's becoming like a full-time commitment if you want to play stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
that accessibility controller, it's not really cheap. I'll say that.
So I do know that the main like component of the controller itself that everything connects to, that baby alone is $99 straight out the box. You don't get anything with it. You just get the base that everything connects to. And then you have all of the individual controller pieces that come in their own little bundles from each respective company that has them bundled for whatever they may be tailored for, that have their own price tags. Some of them are 60, some of them are 80, some of them are 100, just depending on what bundle of accessories that you're wanting to buy for the controller itself that is compatible with kind of like the dock itself, if you will. Because I do know that the XAC itself, if you kind of imagine it, it's like if you took like a Series S but made it really thin, and you put like, I believe it's 19 3.5 millimeter audio jacks along with two USB ports that you can connect everything to, because you can have like a whole kind of like a sim setup. If you've ever seen like a big giant like sim racing setup, imagine that, but being able to do that with this accessibility controller, with all of its attachable gadgets and gizmos and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, maybe I'll throw down the dough one, like, and pick up some components and try things out. But honestly, that would probably be more in the realm of your realm to try, because for
Definitely.
me, the controller, I don't have problems. I don't have as much. I don't really have mobility issues to deal with. It's more on your realm. So that might be something for you to try out more than me. But I mean,
Yeah,
either
so
way, I would still like to see it. I still want to see this controller in terms of accessibility and what it could do and how much better you could play games. Because, like, there's a game that I really would like you to play. And I know some of those controls might be a little harder for you to deal with, like a lot of Rockstar games in particular.
right, yeah.
And they're getting better as they release newer and newer games, but the older ones kind of have the control scheme is a little too much for you to do.
Right.
So I'm wondering, can that accessibility controller alleviate some of those problems? And I'm wondering, in what ways can it do that?
So I do know with specifically the controller itself, there's a whole bunch of different like things that you can see that you can like, it's all plug and play. The whole theme of the thing is just being massively plug and play. So I know that you have the adaptive joystick that's basically a really configurable wired joystick with like different shifting functions and different like inputs that you can expand to be like, hotkeys, stuff like that. Then you have kind of where Logitech comes in with Microsoft's partnership with their, I believe they call it the adaptive gaming kit, I believe, if my memory serves, which is like, it's a bundle of like 12 different little buttons and triggers and Velcro pads with different labels and like almost, I believe it might come with like some little labels that you can feel as well for like easy customization for layouts and stuff. Like it gives you like giant controller buttons that you can mount anywhere in any orientation with its rack that you can kind of have and fit and position wherever and however that's most comfortable for its user. With like, basically if you took the controller and enlarged it by like 5-10 times and have like the giant little buttons in the stick, you can do it that way as well. If someone has limited motor function to where they don't have like the really specific digit movement, but they have like the whole limb movement, it's really good for that.
I would love to see some of these. We have definitely got to pick one of those up. But yeah. So what else? Like, well, off the top of my head, Microsoft also on their storefront, whenever you go to a specific game,
Mm-hmm.
on their game page,
Mm-hmm.
they specifically have an accessibility tab,
Right.
and it will tell you how many accessibility options they have, and then I
Right.
believe you're able to click on them.
Right.
Sometimes they're not labeled properly in the store, I've noticed, although it's very rare, but usually they tell you what kind of accessibility options are in
Mm-hmm.
the game, because that was always my biggest issue. If I'm going to buy a game and I don't know if I could play it or not, like, I need to know, is there any accessibility options
Yeah.
and what can they do for me?
So I do know that
And
the Microsoft Store itself does. That's another thing, kind of comparable. When it comes to the fight with Sony in this regard, with the both of their store pages, I will give the point here to Xbox and Microsoft, because when it comes to their actual like little labels and their little tags that they have, you can see them and access them a lot more approachably than you can with Sony's, because Sony's are still there, but they're not like, front and center like Microsoft's is when it comes to its actual pages, because you still have to scroll down a little bit and you have to click into the menu that shows you like the kind of like the legal jargon fine text of a document to see the
yeah,
accessibility lists. But with Microsoft
right.
Store page, you can kind of see all the tags kind of highlighted to begin with, which I
It's
like a lot
literally
more.
like right above the price of the game. Like,
Yes.
it's literally there. Like,
Yep.
it's like all the tags are
Yes.
there. So
I'll give the
yeah,
point to Xbox on that one for sure.
right. And so yeah, whenever it comes to hardware and software, I think Xbox definitely has the lead on Sony whenever it comes to accessibility.
Mm-hmm.
However, um I don't know. I think that PlayStation has some type of accessibility controller. I could have sworn they had something, didn't they? Or
So
is it
theirs is they do. So theirs is a lot different than Microsoft's approach. While it's the same kind of core functionality concept, its design is completely other side of the woods. So with how Xbox's controller is, you have the main kind of dock system that's like a little rectangle, and then you have all of the millions of ports that you can connect everything to and run and mount it to its hardware however you wish, if you have like, like a rig setup like I was mentioning. But with PlayStations, I know while you can connect things to it and you can kind of modify it, it's a little bit different, because how Xbox has theirs in kind of like a plank dock style, theirs is a lot more round. Like, I know that their main base is very rounded, kind of like if you imagine like a arcade ball top being separated, it's like that. And then the dock itself that has the buttons on it is on the outside of this giant circle with the controller nub on it, and the buttons themselves are like little gas pedal flippers that you can kind of control on the edge of this circle type stuff, and you can still connect stuff to it and you can still kind of configure it. But I do know that at least with PlayStations, it's kind of gas pedally with circles with the way that you have it initially laid out, versus how Microsoft's is kind of the same components, just all externally wired and connected with the wires to the docking station, how you can lay out and mount however you want to begin with.
so they both have accessibility controllers. We have not used either one of them. We don't really have too much of an opinion on them. However, you know, get the financial situation under control and
We're
whatever
definitely
parts that we can
open
do.
to testing them out
Yeah.
at some point for sure. We just haven't had the means to quite yet.
I honestly, yeah, it would be a fantastic video to put out there,
Oh
and we would
yes.
love to do so. But in terms of the accessibility question, both have their controllers. They both probably have their ups and downs. We don't know about them.
Mm-hmm.
Storefronts have accessibility things that you can find for games. However, Xbox is out there more than PlayStation is. They really highlight it more.
Right.
However,
I
now we
definitely
get
I definitely can say with accessories like the Logitech adaptive kit and Microsoft like their modular button setups, players definitely can. I feel like build setups a lot more unique as to their needs from like the different extensions or like the button hubs or however they really want to lay it out. But like I feel like this initial like style of ecosystem, if you will, can provide a lot more about giving them the freedom of choice and not having to worry about, some sort of compromise out of the box, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, oh, like I was going to say, we got the storefronts and the controllers out of the way, but that's not where the real meat is. The meat is the games.
Mm-hmm.
And in this regard, they're both honestly pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, depending on where you go, Xbox and PlayStation have been on the ball whenever it comes to accessibility in their games. Some better than others. Like, I haven't played the new Gears of War remake, and I
Mm-hmm.
really like Gears of War, but I have trouble tracking enemies with shooting games. So I'm wondering if they have a snap to assist aiming. I don't know if they do or don't. I would love to get that, but I can say for a lot of Xbox games, I played Minecraft, the spin-off games are Dungeons and then Legends. Those games have pretty good accessibility options for
Mm-hmm.
colorblind,
Oh,
aim
yeah.
assisting, and whatnot, and have you.
Really good
I've
for
played,
visual aid, I will say.
yeah, absolutely. I've played Forza Horizon, and I can't see any, like, I could never drive a car, but they have this option where you can slow down time and stuff for
Mm-hmm.
people who can't see that well.
Kind of bullet time
Uh,
style.
yeah, I remember that kind of thing. Like that game had a lot of accessibility options for somebody who couldn't really drive a car, and I was able to actually, play the game comfortably well. Um, Psychonauts 2 comes to mind as having some good accessibility.
Mm-hmm.
It has a few no-nos that I'm not really a fan of, like just straight up turning on God mode,
Right.
like that kind of thing.
Because like we always say, we want accessibility in terms of like the video game world is best when it
Mhm.
only takes what you have and enhances it further so that you open your doors to so many more people instead of taking
Right.
away from the experience to meet an end goal, because that's not the point of accessibility. You don't want to, you don't want to ruin what you've made. You want to only enhance it further to make your market grow.
Right. But still, there's still options there. There was, colorblind, there's aim assist and everything like that. And it still works and it does just fine. Um, and yeah, so but then there's a few stinkers that I really wasn't a fan of for me for being visually impaired. Starfield comes to mind. I mean, I know, like, or not really, it wasn't my kind of game anyway, but I tried to get into it, but
Right.
really it didn't strike really well with me because couldn't really do a lot of good aim assisting for me. Like I said, I can't track when it comes to shooting things, and keeping up with things is kind of hard for me to do. So sometimes I need the game to kind of do that good aim assist,
I do
and I felt like it
remember
wasn't there for
Starfield at launch
Starfield.
being a little bit clunky to memory as well.
It's always been clunky. It's a Bethesda game where,
That is true.
I know you don't play a whole lot of Bethesda games, but I can tell you from, Fallout 3 to now, there is no such thing as a stable playing Bethesda game. Anyone here would probably know that who's familiar. But
Yep.
that was a stinker. That was a stinker for me. Um, but then you've got the PlayStation side. And for me personally, I mean, I have the Xbox and the PlayStation. I've just kind of resonated more with PlayStation games more than I have Xbox.
Yeah,
Um,
one thing I will say about like PlayStation Studios and like a lot of Sony first party titles is, surprisingly enough, with when you kind of see all these big like grandiose some AAA titles very much out the gate, you almost, like, when you think about it, you almost get the kind of PC level of optimization, how like PC players will tweak the graphics cards with all the, like, the sliders and the menus. It's really like you get that with a lot of PlayStation Studio stuff, because I know games like God of War Ragnarok, both 1 and 2, plus Last of Us 2, have a slew of different options that you can kind of tweak and go through and twinker to your liking, depending on what your specific case may be.
Yeah, I've not played The Last of Us Part 2, but I have played so it's funny. When it comes to the original game of the first Last of Us, there really wasn't a lot of accessibility options that I could really speak to you about. Like it had an aim assist and whatnot, but it was really not the greatest. But then when they remade it for the PlayStation 5, I know remakes, boo, but it had a camera assist. It had an aim assist.
Yes.
It had plenty of mobility issues for motor control people, like simplifying QuickTime events. I mean, for you specifically, I know like anything that would help you alleviate using your right hand, which is like the aim assist, the heavy snap aiming.
Oh yeah.
Would also be really helpful. It had auditory cues for like deaf people who are hard of hearing. Like it had like visual cues for audio cues. That's what I meant to say. There was a lot here. There was a lot of just so many accessibility options in that game specifically that no one would really even think to have. But I won't lie, it made the experience amazing for me to play.
Yeah,
And
it's really cool to see how taking these things like, that some people might call like a modular menu, and like, developing it with these developers that are like keeping, you know, again, sadly, because not every video game company these days are making accessibility the first note before designing something. It's good to see that over the course of time, as we're going through the recent years, that a lot of people are starting to keep disabled players in mind, and actually having teams with like Q&A reports that they kind of go and they kind of like collaborate with for like different charities that that you see around like the big SoCal areas for the West Coast and all those, like where the headquarters are, because I know like just being able to see how these companies are trying to collaborate just the slightest bit more with these kind of operations to actually kind of get an understanding to better like update what they're trying to make is really nice to see.
so yeah, next game I played for PlayStation that had good ones, and that would be Spider-Man.
Yes,
Specifically,
for sure.
Spider-Man the remastered for PlayStation 5. I've not played the second one yet, but I had played Spider-Man and Miles Morales, and it has like if you were a QTE person to where they're kind of hard for you to do, if you have a little bit of motor issues or anything like that, you can simplify or straight up turn off QuickTime events.
Right. Yep.
They have puzzle assists to where if you don't know what you're doing, like maybe you're like me where you have like lower vision and you can't tell what you're doing, they have little things where the camera will swing to give you an idea of, like, it'll point the camera to where you need to go to explain how to do something without outright telling you. Unless you're God of War Ragnarok, which I'll get into later. But yeah, there's puzzle assist, and then there's a straight up option to skip puzzles if you so incline. I don't agree with that one because it just but if you get tired,
takes
of them,
away from the experience.
Yeah, I mean, but to each their own. If you don't care for it or whatnot, and it's too much for you to handle, whatever kind of disability you have, or hell, if you're not even disabled and you're just saying, I don't give a shit about puzzles, I don't want to do fucking puzzles, I want to be Spider-Man, who cares?
Yep.
Then you can turn them off and just have the experience that you want, and that's cool. Yeah, Spider-Man's good.
One little,
go ahead.
One little note I did want to make about just like a little tiny spotlight that I wanted to do for a lot of what you were saying with QTEs and how a lot of developers are keeping a lot of like physical impairments in mind with that, with like having the option to have them either be turned off or on an auto setting. One game that I've seen probably do that the best in recent years is mine and Cody's personal game of the year, which would be Clair Obscura Expedition 33.
That is true. In that game, and that's not exclusive to consoles. That's on everything except Nintendo.
Yep.
But yeah, that game relies on QTEs to pull off your special abilities, and if you can't do them, which if the QTEs are there to make your attacks do more damage. But if you're like me and you can't do them because you can't see them pop up properly, you can turn on auto QTE. You
Right.
won't get the benefit of getting the QTE perfect, but you'll still get the benefit of not missing the QTE and
Right.
doing like the least amount of damage.
Right.
So you're still at a bit of a penalty. I have to knock some points away from that game just for that. However, it's not game breaking. You can still win, and I have. I beat the game, and I had no problem with the QTEs turned off.
Yeah,
It
I
did
will
not
say
affect.
it doesn't affect the flow of gameplay at all. It's all natural. Nothing is it doesn't feel interrupted in the slightest.
No, I will say for visual cues, maybe they could do a little better for someone like me, but I mean that's just a skill issue, and I can fully admit to just sucking ass at some of the fucking boss fights in that game, which is fine. I can take that L, especially with Simon. If you
You
know, you
know.
know.
Yep. If you know, you know.
Anyway, my next game that I wanted to talk about with PlayStation was the God of War series, specifically the reboots. The original games didn't have accessibility options. They were back in it was a different time. But
Yes.
God of War 2018 had a little bit of accessibility options, but it mainly boiled, as far as I know, as to the colorblind correctiveness. So you could turn off camera shaking if you're
Right.
motion sick. But like it was very basic stuff. Ragnarok is where the meat and potatoes come in, because
Yeah.
Ragnarok, you have the QTE assists, you have the colorblind corrections, you have the aim assists with snap aiming, and you also have puzzle assist. However, the puzzle assist kind of gets me. Like, you know, um, even whenever you don't have puzzle assist turned on or whatever in the accessibility, or I think it's whatever it is, if you get to a puzzle, it only takes them like 30 seconds, and then whoever the hell's following you will be like, did you see that wheel? What if you threw your axe at it? And I'm like, bitch,
Right.
let me figure it out. Like, that's a problem that everyone had with Ragnarok.
Kind of
Too much
almost like
handhold.
that classic kind of like the classic like PlayStation hint system kind of back in the kind of Sly Cooper days, how the game would yell at you if you either took too long or like we're missing something to progress.
I don't remember too much about it, but I mean, it was definitely a problem that people had. But still, if you don't care about that kind of thing, then it's still like really good, especially for somebody who doesn't know, like who can't see the better details. For me personally, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, God of War Ragnarok, amazing accessibility options on it that
For
got me
sure.
through the game, no problem. I've heard very good things about The Last of Us Part 2. However, like I said, haven't played it. Um, have not gone through it personally. I hear it's on the PlayStation Plus catalog for the remasters, so
Yes.
maybe I'll go through that. I've heard, yeah, really good things about that. But that's really almost all the games. I only have one more, and that's Ghost of Tsushima.
Oh,
Not played
yes.
Yote, but I can say in terms of Tsushima's thing, I played it on the PS4 at launch, and then I played it on PS5. It has that amazing snap aiming.
Oh,
I
yep.
love that.
For sure.
Uh, you have the ability to turn down the ability of guards, how fast they see you,
Uh-huh.
if you can't tell what you're doing. Not really my cup of tea, but maybe someone else who might have a little bit of trouble playing games, who is a little more impaired than either one of us. There are options out there that will literally you can dumb down the AI so that way you don't get your ass handed to
Mm-hmm.
you, and you can also increase the wind trail effect. So whenever
Oh,
you use
yeah.
the wind, yeah, I had to turn that up because I couldn't tell where I was going.
I'll fully
But
admit that
you
to
can,
you. You remember when I was first completing that I had to turn that on because I couldn't see it normally. I just there's no way.
what they had a cool concept. It was like the wind will blow, and then you watch the direction of the wind blowing, like the grass. You would
Mm-hmm.
watch where the grass is blowing or the tree limbs blow, and it tells you where you need to go
Mm-hmm.
organically. Well, for my blind ass, I can't fucking see that, so I had to turn on the wind effects to where the wind
Right.
looks like it's fucking snowing, like
Mm-hmm.
like this is the big white gust of wind that tells you, "Hey, go that way, dumbass." Like,
I will
I
definitely say with the way Tsushima is set up, it's very open by design, and the way it's approached is done really well. I will say probably in terms of like me specifically physically and like from an accessibility standpoint, I enjoyed every single second of Ghost. The only thing that kind of was a slight wall for me to kind of like, do in terms of like, game progression, story progression, or like, content progression as a whole would just be the bamboo segments with,
I was literally
yeah.
about I was about to say that.
That would be my only tick for Ghost of Tsushima in terms of me and accessibility and like how they could have handled that possibly a little bit better for people. That would be my only takeaway.
Well, guess what? There is an accessibility option in there, as far as I remember, that literally lets you turn off or do simplified bamboo cuts. I don't think you use. I think I remember telling you about them, and you were too stubborn to turn them on because you were like, "Fuck that."
I wanted the
Uh,
authentic experience.
it's all about accessibility, my dude. But yeah, as far as I know, you can turn off the QTEs, or no, you can make it to where you have longer time to do them, or like I know that there is a bamboo assist that you can turn on in Tsushima. Um and it is also present in Yote, as far as I should know.
We'll see how that
Like I said,
goes because from what I've heard, they've kind of upped the ante on those.
yeah, we'll see. Don't know how that goes, but definitely looking forward to that at some point. But money.
But yeah, money indeed.
But yeah, that's all the first party games that I can think of. I mean, the Demon Souls remake comes to mind, but there's no real accessibility options that it's a pretty accessible game because you don't really have to worry about aiming or anything in that game. I mean, you can, but you're not really gonna, if you're aiming, you're gonna be standing still, and for the most part, it's about locking on and everything. And like I said, uh, accessibility for me personally isn't dumbing down your game. It's about making it accessible to everyone. If you want a hard game, then make that hard game, but make it hard to where anyone can enjoy it on with different types of impairments.
I will
But
say, as far
not
as
everyone
like
not everyone is. Before you go on, I'll say not everyone is like me. I'm not here. If you like to play your games as breezy and easy as humanly possible, there is no shame in that. Accessibility is different for everybody. I can absolutely say that's just for me personally. I think for me personally, I want the game to be as authentic as I possibly can with the little bit of things that just help me play the game a little better. But some people don't want to climb a mountain.
right.
To put it in terms of the Resident Evil remake, one of my favorite games, the difficulty in that game is attuned to walking. Some people just
Yep.
want to go on a brisk walk. Some people might want to go hiking on a little rougher terrain, and some people like to climb fucking mountains.
Mm-hmm.
I am one of those people that likes to climb mountains. That doesn't mean everyone is like that.
Right.
So yeah, that little tangent aside, accessibility options are, whatever you make of them, like what helps you the most. And
Exactly.
yeah, in terms of what I have had better luck with, it has been on the PlayStation side, but that's also because I think PlayStation just has the more interesting games than Xbox. Xbox has some good games, but they have been kind of fumbling the ball in terms of my interest lately. I think the biggest thing that I loved that came out of Microsoft was Psychonauts 2. And that's because I can't believe that game got a sequel. I love that game so much. Oh, I love that game. But yeah, I'm going to have to give the point in terms of the most interesting games with the most, if you're going by, aesthetic wise, I'm going to have to go with PlayStation. However, if you are on Xbox, you still get really good accessibility.
Yeah.
Maybe not in all of their games, specifically in maybe Bethesda games. They might be the outlier. But they still have something in
Right.
there, just not specifically for me. So they wouldn't be counted as the most accessible.
Yeah, if I had to kind of give my kind of simple breakdown on kind of the trifecta of the big three, if you will, when it comes to Xbox, they definitely, in my book, don't get the software and game point. Their point in this game, to me, for Xbox, goes to their hardware initiatives when it comes to what they're making for accessibility. Now, if I had to give a point specifically on the game side and software side, it would definitely go to PlayStation. Nintendo is in an awful on its own little ship out in the middle of nowhere that has no idea what it wants to do. So I'm not even going to give them anything, kind of for what they're wanting to do, but they're definitely steering back to the mainland and actually getting a good foot on the ground with, at least on the system level. But outside of that, they haven't really done much. But again, just to recap my personal thoughts, Xbox gets the hardware point, Sony gets the software point, and Nintendo is getting there.
Exactly. I gotta say, so to recap, like you said, Xbox, good controller, good store for letting you know, and kind of lackluster software. But when they do put out their software, it does have a good bit of stuff in there. Right. PlayStation, you don't get to see their accessibility features outright on the store, but their games, definitely their first party games, are never really lacking. I've yet to play a first party PlayStation game. I've not played Helldivers, but I had to guess because that's more competitive. I would think that probably would not have any, but I might be surprised. I don't know. But for most of the first party software that I played from PlayStation Studios, their accessibility has been very much on point, and it has covered a wider array of disabilities.
Yes,
and it's only getting better. So, sir, to summarize, I guess even further, Xbox good, PlayStation more interesting. So,
yep,
go PlayStation if you want that kind of experience, more experiences.
Yep.
But if you got an Xbox, you're not up shit creek. You're really good.
Right.
Actually, you know what? I can't even say PlayStation. They're both genuinely good, except Nintendo.
Yep. Nintendo is just kind of figuring it out its life right now.
So, yeah, no, like now that I'm actually talking about it and everything and I'm thinking about it, the final answer to what company is the most accessible, and the answer is both.
Yeah.
Honestly, both handle their accessibility in different ways. And it's honestly down to personal preference.
Yep. Kind of like, again, because you can mold your experience to how you would like to play it.
Right. God, I'm thinking to myself and I'm talking about this and I'm like, I sound like, no, I'm contradicting myself. No. You know what? It literally is just both.
Mm-hmm.
Except Nintendo.
Yep.
They got to do better. They really got to do better. Yeah,
Nintendo they're taking a tiny step for their system, so they're getting there slowly but surely. Baby steps. It'll take time, but again, just to recap, to the person that asked us this wonderful question, thank you. We hope that we were able to kind of unpack this question in the best way possible, and I would say that we did a pretty darn good job at it. So again, thank you for the question, and as always, everyone, don't forget.
Yeah, before you go into that, I'll put my piece in there. But to summarize, both.
For sure, yeah. And as always, y'all know where to find us. Please, if y'all ever have any more questions, or if you would like to be, just any general questions that we could answer for whatever you're going through, if you'd like to share your story, you can always find us at techandtactile.com, as well as you can follow us on our various social media platforms, of which we now have a TikTok as well, which is brand new. So again, we hope you have enjoyed this. We hope that we were able to answer your question as most efficiently as possible. And as always, people, stay accessible.
Stay accessible. Thanks for listening to our Guerrilla Style podcast.